Okay, welcome to the horror wall. That's right, here we are, the horror wall. Built this thing, and I've been really enjoying it. And you know what? The only thing is, it's going to be hell to move this thing when I get out of here. So, but anyway, here it is for now. I've been away for a little bit, so sorry, but we were trying to make some videos. But anyway, we're going to do some stuff where we come to the wall. It's not all entirely horror, but I would say it's probably 95% all horror. There's a couple of things that are kind of in this collection that I like that are, in a sense, like almost like you could say a cult following, if you will. So one that was actually just released here that I want to show you. This came out just recently. It's the Blu-ray copy of Heat with Burt Reynolds. If you're a Burt Reynolds fan, I'm a Burt Reynolds fan. This one just came out by Kino Lorber. I'm not sure. It's just KL Studios. But they've been doing a lot of releasing on really cool stuff. This one has a slipcover. But it's interesting as I'm starting to get to kind of be familiar with Blu-ray and DVD. Even now, it's kind of, for a lot of people, it's an old thing. But I remember the VHS stuff, and that's where I love the old VHS tapes. Here's one that a lot of you, if you're older, like me, remember the old VHS copies. I mean, you remember seeing that in a video store? I tell you, these things would scare the bejesus out of you when you saw them. You just didn't know what the heck that was. Banned in 46 countries. If the brutal explicit death upsets you, don't view this tape. Awesome stuff. I'm glad I got to experience that era. Those that didn't, they really missed out. But anyway, here's the horror wall, and we're going through some stuff, and I want to just kind of show you a couple of things that I really like in the horror kind of deal of some of these studios that have been doing. We talked about like this box set here. They came out from this one came out from, we'll pull one of these out, and this came out from Shout Factory. Shout Factory, Scream Factory, they're the same company. They've been doing a lot of these releasings of Blu-rays and stuff of the horror flicks. And one thing that I really like is like this. They have included the reverse side of the slipcover where it basically reflects the old VHS covers. So this is really cool. It's the Friday the 13th box set. It's got all the films in it. It's funny as younger people, they've asked me, one time I was asked, like, why was there so many of those that were made? That seems so ridiculous or whatnot. You just didn't relive through the 80s. That was just some awesome stuff that was happening. It was truly a badass time to be into horror. And of course, these just kept, it's not necessarily, look, this is part 7, and this is really almost what you could say arguably one of the better of the series in it, because Kane Hodder started donning the mask. And if you know who Kane Hodder is in the horror business, the guy's probably killed more people as a character on horror movies and in movies in general than any other actor. And for fans like me, I've read his book and everything. Kane Hodder is Jason, bar none. He played Jason from 7 to 8 to 9 to 10, and that's it. It cemented him as Jason to me because he brought a life to the character. I feel like he was almost the first guy to enter the series that really cared about it and wanted to do it justice and did everything he could to make it as cool as it could be and repeating the character. So you can always almost tell when it's Kane Hodder playing it. And whoever decided to replace him in Freddy vs. Jason should just be fired and never be able to touch another movie, especially in the horror genre, ever again. So whoever made that decision, I don't know if it's the director, that director Ronnie Yu or whatever, whoever is that in charge of that and replaced Kane Hodder as Jason with Ken Kersinger or whatever, you ought to be fired and removed. That was sacrilegious. That was a slap in the face to us fans that grew up with that. So, but another cool little release here is another one here by Vestron Video. This is Waxworks. Waxworks is done. This is the sequel as well. This is such a whacked out movie. This is really cool. I remember that VHS cover growing up. This is another one of those Waxworks type movies. I love the Wax House Museum type movies. They're great. I even like the remake that they did with. It actually has like Paris Hilton and stuff in it. It's actually a good movie. I'm not too much into the modern horror, but a lot of them, there are some really hidden gems that came out that are pretty good. I'm a big fan of not entirely all of his stuff, but Rob Zombie has actually done some really good ones. Not so much as Halloween 2. I always thought Halloween 2 was kind of like, what is this? But then again, you're going and trying to remake a classic like that. It's really hard to begin with. But Halloween 2 truly deviated from it. But I think where Rob Zombie really shined was creating a series of movies with the characters that he did for the House of a Thousand Corpses. House of a Thousand Corpses is an interesting movie. It's actually, I just saw they released a box set, kind of a larger box of a, if you will, like a special edition anniversary thing that was kind of interesting to see. But I'm really a big fan of the Devil's Rejects because it's such a really a fresh, unique taste on horror in general. It's kind of horror, but it's not like, it's almost kind of action drama-ish in a sense, but still it's got that horror vibe to it for sure. But there's some really cool old ones here that I've gotten. Lucio Fulci and his stuff. You got New York Ripper, City of Living Dead, and of course The Beyond. The Beyond is definitely another one that I think if you're going to do any of the Fulci films, watch The Beyond first, because that is completely outrageous, over the top, nutso kind of a movie. So, and then another recent release that came out by Vinegar Syndrome is the sequel to The Birds, Birds 2, Land's End. It's not as, I guess you would say, it's not as a powerful horror film, but it's not bad. I'm glad it got a re-release because for a long time there, it was on VHS, and that was the only way you could see it, if you recall those or remember those. This is another good example of the old original cover right there of Halloween 2 with the pumpkin skull and everything. This is another one that Scream Factory did. That's really cool. Another throwback to the old VHS stuff. Another one they released, this is by Vinegar Syndrome as well, is Mausoleum. Mausoleum got a new release by Vinegar Syndrome. I had to pick that up when I heard that was coming out because a lot of these I remember seeing on VHS and whatnot, so those tapes. So that's really cool. So there's some really cool key studios that you want to keep an eye out if you're really into the horror stuff. Arrow Video is one of them. Arrow Video's done Evil Ed. Evil Ed got a nice release. This is a deluxe, I think, 3-disc edition of Evil Ed. They also did House, the infamous House movies. I think the first two, the first one's obviously the boss of them all. But that one definitely holds up pretty good. They did a couple other ones, like the number 2 is okay. But then they did, like, unofficially, they did 3 and 4, which some of them are under different titles. I think number 3 or number 4, one of them is listed under Horror Show. I don't know why. But yeah, that's another company to keep an eye out for. KL Studios, again, they've been releasing not just horror, although it's like like I said, they were showing you like the movie Heat with Burt Reynolds that they're doing. Also coming up really shortly here, they're redoing 52 Pickup with Roy Scheider. If you're a big Scheider fan like I am, definitely keep an eye out for that. They also did Assassination with Charles Bronson and his lovely wife there. That's another really cool one that they did. So, but anyway, yeah, Scream Factory been knocking it out of the park. There is some other companies that have done up, like the remake of Night of the Living Dead from the 90s that's directed by Tom Savini. Great remake. Normally remakes are not very good. This is probably the best remake that right off the top of my head when somebody says, hey, what's an awesome remake? The Night of the Living Dead 1990 edition. This one's really cool. This one's done up by Umbrella. Also, Twilight Time has done a couple. Twilight Time has been doing some. This is another company that's kind of whenever you see their stuff, it gets really expensive. Like one that came to mind was the Mechanic. When the Mechanic with Charles Bronson came to Blu-ray and DVD, or Blu-ray rather. That was released under the Twilight Time until Scorpion Releasing did it. But here's one called Who Will Stop the Rain with Nick Nolte, another really good kind of drama, real gritty action film that came out, kind of a cult film, but that one's really difficult to find. It can be, yeah, Who Will Stop the Rain? That's a Twilight Time edition Blu-ray. So also speaking of KL Studios, they released one. They released their new version of The Hunter with Steve McQueen, his final movie, as well as Brannigan with John Wayne on Blu-ray. So if you're kind of into those, but anyway, I just if you enjoy hanging out and talking more movies, let me know in the comments and everything. But anyway, thanks for hanging out, and we're going through the horror wall a little bit at a time.